All right. ठीक है. All right. The speakers for today, Dr. Suryanarayanan, Dr. Kaikar, faculty and students. I thought I should share a few thoughts on this budget based on the center page articles that have been coming in the newspapers in the last 3-4 days, so that students can relate what they are studying in their classroom with what's happening in practice. Because on the one hand we say let's have a practical look at the budget and practice. That means it has no theoretical basis. On the other hand we talk of theory, no practice. But both are interrelated. Only thing is, the finance minister, when he presented the budget, is a politician. He is not the intellectual from Harvard who has to present his models. And as a politician, he has two objectives. One, he must survive his job, and two, he must make sure that his party survives both this year and also has the face to go to the elections, hopefully successfully from their perspective. The finance minister, even if Dr. Vishnu Kandre was the finance minister, I guess that would be his objective, rather than bring out all his academic brilliance and bring complicated and intricate, interrelated provisions which will not be accepted by the opposition for the simple reason that they just don't want any kind of change which may influence the electorate in favor of the ruling party. Please remember this. It's very easy to say 10 out of 10 or 0 out of 10, sitting outside. Now, if you look at the basic model that Mr. Chidambaram has adopted, Dr. Raghuraman must have been behind it because he prepared the economic survey, and I'm sure other leading economists have worked on it. It's simple common sense Keynesian economics that had been applied because that was the only way that they could go ahead, the line of least resistance. All of us could work in the laboratory and bring out brilliant package of proposals, but it would not have been accepted for various reasons. What is the thing that you can do as a manager when you have been given some power? Use whatever is in your discretion. Use your power fully. Authority is a very important resource and that must be utilized fully. What is the authority that the government has? The government has the authority to spend and allocate money to various schemes, and that's what he has done. Massive increases in expenditure on various counts, plan and non-plan, in order to bring about change in the economy for inclusive growth and sustainable growth. Through this allocation, he is assuming that in the entire economy, the consumption effective demand will be stimulated. This is the Keynesian concept. When there is a depression in the economy, when the economy is not doing well, when there is massive unemployment, when production is low, when employment is low, when consumption is low, when savings is low, when investment is low, when all key parameters are low, try to stimulate the economy through consumption expenditure. This was in his discretion, he has done that. When the consumption expenditure is stimulated, it is based on your simple equation which you must have studied in managerial economics, that income is equal to consumption plus savings. People will consume, people will save, economy will be stimulated. If that stimulation takes place successfully, the assumption is simultaneously the supply lines will be in operation through the public distribution system. If supply lines are in operation from existing stock, buffer stock, hopefully a favorable rabi crop, and increases in production in certain segments of the economy, the inflation line will also be under control. Because in the presentation made by the faculty, they showed you two graphs, food inflation and non-food inflation. Food inflation is the culprit. For some reason, supply lines do not respond because public distribution system fails, then the finance minister has problem. Either he has to import food grains, which is shameful, that's what he said, that it is shameful that there are starvation deaths in a country where there is surplus food stock. But the fact is, food stock is surplus in one go down but doesn't reach the point of starvation. He is making an assumption that state governments will be capable of delivering the goods to those points where these funds will go. And as soon as the consumption effective demand is created, the system will respond. Assuming this works, he also knows that if the multiplier goes into action, the accelerator also has to be given a positive push. What is the accelerator? Something which pushes the investment in Keynesian language. What has he done to revive the accelerator? He has reintroduced section 32A of the Income Tax Act, which was known in yesteryears as development rebate. Now it is known as investment allowance. He has revived investment allowance by ensuring that investments made in machinery are given a special incentive in addition to Section 32 of Income Tax Act. Section 32 is depreciation. Section 32A was investment allowance. This should help developing what he calls as a robust manufacturing sector. He wants to build up a manufacturing apparatus. Services sectors are productive, but putting more and more money into service sector doesn't help. Worrying about agricultural productivity also doesn't help, because agricultural productivity is low, one of the lowest, barring in the northern part of the country. The only way out is to develop a robust manufacturing sector, increase the number of jobs in the manufacturing sector, and also make those jobs very productive. Aggregate production goes up, productivity goes up, and the stimulus that the economy gets via consumption demand is also revived by investment demand. Now this is the equation that economists have made, that Keynesian multiplier, Keynesian accelerator, both will work simultaneously, and they will be able to manage the economy for 1 year very successfully. If there are problems, it is not Chidambaram's problem. If there is an inflation problem, he will lift his hands and say, erase the interest rate. It is Dr. Subbarao's problem, and Dr. Subbarao will have to manage it. If supplies don't reach on time politically, he will say it's the state government which has to manage the public distribution system. This is a state government responsibility. If investments are not forthcoming in spite of Section 32A investment allowance, stock market is down and people don't want to take the risk to invest in manufacturing equipment, that's just too bad, and inflation may then become a serious problem. 4 to 5% growth, they say, can be managed. More than that will be difficult to manage without inflation. That's what yesterday Moody's report says. Moody's international report has given a clean check that India can grow at 4 to 5%, but not 6 to 7%. 6 to 7% will tend to be rather inflationary, but it all depends on how the ifs and buts that I have said work positively in favor of Mr. Chidambaram. So this year he has to pass through this consumption effect, investment effect, and making assumption that everything will work. If they work, then it's a very salubrious situation, textbook situation. Consumption, savings, investment, national income, production, employment, all will be under control. If it doesn't, because he has balance of trade problem, balance of payments problem, he has interest rate problem, he has problem of fiscal deficit, then it's just too bad. Then it might be a clean cakewalk for BJP in the next election. It depends on how the situation will emerge. But to say that there is no modeling that has gone beyond the whole process of economic development or formulation of the budget, that it is just an ad hocism that has governed the preparation of the budget, is not very correct. And yesterday's Mint center page article, day before yesterday's Business Standard center page article, and Times of India articles in center page are carrying these thoughts in different languages by different experts. Please go through them. This is based on simple Keynesian economics, common sense economics. What did Keynes ultimately say when he got fed up of capitalism? And that's what Mr. Chidambaram is trying to say. If I can't find jobs for people, what do? I ask them to dig the holes and fill them up. Dig the holes and fill them up. Same thing. You give them various incentives under the garb of inclusion and sustainable growth. You give them doles. Let them just take the money and spend, because you are provoking the people at the bottom of the pyramid. They don't even have to dig the holes and fill them up. With their other card, they have to go to the bank, take the money and spend it. This is the assumption that he is making. If that also doesn't work and there is some leakage in the system, then it is just too bad. So if we are working on the assumption that everything will be positive, if that optimism doesn't work, then it is just too bad, then things, certain other things may happen. That's why yesterday's Mint says 4 to 5% growth possible, 7% growth risky, but the budget has taken this risk. The risk is consumption and investment, both will move in a positive direction. If they don't, we have to wait and see what happens. I thought I should drive home this point to students, that whatever they are studying in the classroom, and all these parameters were discussed by the finance faculty when they made their respective presentation. So try to relate what you study in the books with what the finance minister has said, and try to read the center page articles of the last 1 week in different newspaper. Particularly yesterday's Mint gives you the concepts which govern the budget and how the process of economic development will take place in the next 1 year, given the political economy. Finally, remember, as a manager, if you are a finance minister, no matter how brilliant you are and what proposals you have, answers in economics are questions in politics. You may have brilliant answers, but they will not work. तुम्हारा हुशारी नहीं चलेगा because that fellow will shout. Fortunately, as Dr. Suryanarayanan pointed out on 28th, everybody was very quiet except once, when he said that those who will move from program 1 to program 2, only 4 or 5 states, then those whose states were not announced, they started making noise. That was the only noise that we saw. Otherwise, they all heard it very silently. Why? Not because they love Chidambaram. No. They say that would be a very abnormal situation. Not because of that. Because there is nothing in the budget that provokes them. Line of least resistance. Yet he did what he wanted. So remember what Harold Lasky in his book Grammar of Politics said. Answers in economics are questions in politics. And you can't just come out with brilliant proposals. It will not go through. So please remember these thoughts in mind. I thought I should intercept Vishnu Kanare's lecture with these thoughts to you so that you relate theory with practice or concept with practice. Thank you for the time, Dr. Suryanarayanan. I'm sorry for intercepting this.